It's
Hey.
Late Nights with
Hey,
Kraevin. And we have Rhizomata in the house. You guys want to introduce yourselves and what you do?
What's up? I'm Chris, vocals for Rhizomata.
how are you? I'm Cameron, and I do guitar for Rhizomata, guitarist.
He does the stringy
Awesome.
things.
Do the stringy
Yeah.
things.
He does things. He's good with his hands, right? That's all.
Always.
He likes to play with the G string and all of
Which
this.
is always out of tune. Funny story. Always out of tune.
Alrighty, so tell us a little bit about your band. How did you guys get together?
I'm gonna let Cameron take that one.
Absolutely. Well, we actually, let's take it way back. Actually, I've been jamming with several of the guys in Rhizomata for many years. We've been in projects. Oh my god, for the past like 10 years, in and out of projects, and then we kind of took a little break from it. We went on a hiatus for about 5 years, and life hit us, families, work, careers, kids, and we just kind of didn't do music for a while. And then one day we just kind of all got back together. It was me, Josh, our bassist, and Elliot, our drummer. We just got back together one day and we decided to do this project. We started it up, I want to say at the best time, because it was during COVID, where we were able to actually sit down and start, writing new jams and kind of seeing the direction that we want to go musically and creatively. And, after that, we started looking for another guitarist, which is where Elliot came in. And then we pumped out a few demos, a few songs. We kind of put some feelers out there for a singer because we had an idea of what kind of sound and singer we wanted. And then here comes along Chris, and the rest is history. We've been doing shows. We just started this year with doing shows. We debuted at the end of February, and we're still going strong. And yeah, we're really excited and to see what the future brings. And thank you for inviting us on the show and being a part of this.
Yeah, it's been great. I got to play with you guys in Houston, and I was just really impressed because, it's like you tour a lot, and you see a lot of good bands, and, when you're at the merch town, you're hanging out, and it's like, I call them the head turners, and it's like the band that makes you look up at the stage and be like, whoa, who's that? And you guys definitely have that. Like, you have the energy, you have the vocals. I mean, Chris, your voice is amazing. I'm always just like, oh my God.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then it's so
Thanks so
crazy
much.
because I was expecting, like, when you were in the studio and I wasn't in the room, I was expecting to hear you like down the block. You have like such power and energy, but somehow you can contain it into like,
You had a nice little comfy closet for me.
yeah. I was like, he's gonna like blow the walls out of here. But no, it was, you guys definitely, I love the music. I know you guys sent me like a demo of y'all's that we're actually going to be showing off tomorrow on the morning show with Rock Rage Radio, and I'm really, really excited to share it with the world. Can't wait till everything else is done. I know you guys have been working on a lot of things, so tell us what are your next projects you guys are working on? Like, what are you guys doing right now?
So, as you know, you were alluding to us recording with Chris over at your spot. So that was for our first single we're going to release called Rise Up, kind of our namesake in terms of songs. And then from there, we're going to just look to get, final production and like studio polish thing on the other songs we already have. And then I guess put them all into a single work, an EP or an album, something like that. And then branch out, try to play some more shows in surrounding cities. So far, we've only been here in Houston.
Nice. And then where does the name like Rhizomata come from?
It's actually it's a funny, good question, actually. So, when we were deciding band names, we all just kind of put names into hats. And Rhizomata actually came from, as nerdy as it sounds, we're very nerdy and dorky people. Rhizomata actually came from one of our drummer's World of Warcraft character. And when he pitched it to us, we were kind of like, oh, that's an interesting name. What does it mean? And when we kind of dove more into the meaning of the name, it's, pretty much a creative thought using different elements. And I was like, wow, you could really use that, especially when creating music. You know, we have so many different influences in our band. You know, Chris has his influences, which he implements in our songs, and you know, Elliot, our drummer, has style, and you know, Elliot has his own style. So we have these different elements that we use to create our song, and that's where we get the Rhizomata.
Nice, y'all are gamers. See, I knew this is why I loved you. Edge of Destiny is actually inspired by a game too. Like it has like this whole deeper meaning. But initially, like my inspiration for the name actually came from a video game that I played. So it's hilarious.
What game?
Guild Wars 2.
Guild Wars, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, Guild Wars 2. I played WoW for a minute. I don't like to admit that. In fact, I was kind of like a gamer snob, like, oh yeah, I don't play WoW. WoW sucks, yada yada. And then a friend dragged me to see that like Warcraft movie, and you know, in the beginning when like the little Murlocs or whatever those things are, and they're like making that little sound. I giggled. Yes, and he's like, I knew you played WoW, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's just a cute sound. I was seriously the only girl. Sold out movie. I was the only girl in there, except the dude was in there with his mom. I was the only chick in this entire theater.
Wait. There's a high chance that was Asmongold and his mom, because Asmongold, he's like the top WoW streamer, and his mom played WoW with him too. He probably took her to the movie because he lives in Austin.
Oh my gosh, it might have been him then. That's hilarious. Because yeah, I went. My friend had tickets. He's like, I don't want to be there. You know, I don't want to go by myself. Well, I'm like, you're kidding. It's gonna be a bunch of dudes by themselves. It's like, no, I don't want to go by. I'm
accurate.
Like, movie, and then it like outed me because then he knew. Like,
they figured it out.
Found out.
I did. Yes, I was in Druid. I busted. I played for like.
Nice. I played Druid too. Originally, I played Druid. Then I played Paladin.
I liked the healing spec for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I like support classes because I love it when someone just gets zerged and I can keep them alive. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. You know, whatever. I just get this satisfaction. Plus, I like going into a zerg as a healer. Like I played Rift for a while, and I would love going into like PvP and Rift. I would go in as like this just monster cleric. And I like run in, like our raid would charge into places. The entire raid would wipe, and I just run back to the respawn spot, and I'd have an entire zerg chasing me, and I wouldn't die because I could heal myself. And then I'd get back to the raid, and then everybody would get wiped, and I'd be like, "Look at me! I didn't you see your death?
I didn't die."
and everyone was like, "How do you not die?" I'm like,
because I can heal myself. That's why
I can heal myself. But I'm not so busy keeping y'all alive. I'm
about to say, I'm the one over here that's like, I was always the tank in World of Warcraft. I played a Death Knight tank, and I'm always the one that's like, heal me.
Healing. You're a Death Knight. You're supposed to heal yourself.
You can only do so much. You can only do so much.
True.
Death Knights were fun. But yeah, I played WoW for I think it was like 6, 7, 8, 9 months. I don't know. I hung in there for a while because my boyfriend at the time played it. And I was like, I just can't.
I thought she was gonna say years. Like I played like 6, 7, 8 years. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how much I played.
I was a Lord of the Rings online girl for years. Okay. Like literally lived it, breathed it. I took kind of a hiatus like for music for a while because you know it's like a money pit. The struggle is real and finding dedicated members. And so it's like, you know, go through this like revolving door of musicians. And then when you go through like a thing, it's like, do I really want to keep doing this? You tell yourself, no, I can do other things, right? Totally do other things. No, I dumped my life into video games. And yeah, and I totally went all into like Lord of the Rings online, and I spent my I did live streaming. They didn't have like a whole lot of live streaming back then. Like Twitch hadn't even come out yet, I don't think. But I would do videos. I would I would play with my interface off, and I would do like videos of my screen, and then I would post them. And when we were raiding, and then I'd make like these video game parodies and sing these songs in like a home studio that I put together because, you know, oh, I can do this, right? And then I'm like, I'm still doing music. Like, I'm just singing about video games, which is way more lame than I was doing before. So,
I want to
like,
see these old videos. You gotta unlock that vault for us.
I'll show you. I have a channel like in the dark recesses of YouTube
In the
that
archives.
I reposted them on. But yeah, like one of my parodies though, when I was playing Guild Wars 2, actually got picked up by the video game. It was pretty awesome because I made like a whole video tribute on the 1-year anniversary of the game release, and the song. It's like the Katy Perry Wide Awake parody. And so I did like a recreation of a lyric video using Guild Wars 2's Facebook, did like an animated recreation of the Facebook and then their Facebook page, and then did like the lyrics telling the story of the game, and like, from day one all the way to like the end. And yeah, my nerd is showing. So
trying to get more into like video editing and stuff. Our bassist Josh used to do like the AMVs and stuff, which I think is awesome. Like I've spent so much time watching like those Linkin Park AMVs and stuff, or whatever, like the popular music to shots from like Naruto. I haven't even seen Naruto, but I just thought the AMVs were cool. So it's cool to know like he edited those together, and you make videos like that too. You gotta get on that.
Yeah, videos are fun. I like video is probably like my second love to music. I really liked doing it. I make lyric videos and stuff for bands and everything now and then, like when I wasn't doing music. And now like the band is such a full-time job, like I struggle because it's like I'll go down this like dark recess of, I'm gonna make this promo video, right? And I'm like, okay, I could spend like 5 years on this thing, like just I can animate this and I can do that. I'm like, it's just a 15-second story, Kraevin. Literally just throw some slap it up. No one's gonna care. It's gonna be gone in 24 hours.
I'm the same way. Like I brainstorm for like ever. I'm like, man, what are some cool promo videos I can make? And then I spend so much time just like thinking about it and creating it, and it's like gone within like 24 hours or a week or however long you're running it. Completely, I can relate to you.
Yeah, it's like I go into After Effects. I'm like, is this really necessary? My friend's like, why don't you just get Canva? I have Adobe on my
computer. You already have.
I have Canva. It just doesn't do everything I want it to do.
I know. I'm like, but I can't do that like text animation. And I'm like sitting here like, oh my god, just let me pull up After Effects. Do this really quick.
You guys out here trying to win Oscars on your promo vids.
I'm like, nobody cares.
Best special effects in a 15-second promo.
Best promo video for 2022.
I know. And then like somebody sees our music video and they're like, oh my gosh, Kraevin, did you do the special effects in After Effects? I'm like, no, actually, I wash my hands of our music videos and I have other people do them. I still direct them and I still storyboard everything and I still like kind of am behind the scenes, but I don't edit them. I'm not a videographer anyway, but I don't edit them. Sometimes I'll do the promos, but I let somebody else do that part because I would sit there for videos for days. You know what I mean? Our editor has it done in like a week or two. I'd be sitting here for like 3 years, like, oh, that album came and went. I'm still editing the video because I'm like, I could do this, I could do that. And so yeah, I wash my hands of it. But no, the fire was real. It really lit me on fire. It wasn't special effects. It was awesome. It was fun.
That was cool.
So your band shows, you got any shows coming up?
Yes, we got one on November 20th at Winter's Bar in Pasadena. Or is it Deer Park or Pasadena? Sorry.
No, it's in Pasadena. It's a new venue. The building's been there forever, but they just recently made a new venue called Winners, and it's been pretty popular lately. So we got invited to a benefit show. We're helping out someone in the industry. Their goddaughter lost their daughter in a car crash, and it's just a show to help raise money and funds for these individuals. So we're helping out as much as we can, and we're playing some music, and hopefully we get some good turnout, and we can help out as much as we can. Yeah. So that's November 20th. So it's coming up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, actually.
2 weeks from today, November 20th. Yeah. That sounds like a really great show. And it's a good cause. I love it when you can play shows for a good cause to help people, because it's kind of the whole point of what we do, right? Music is to help people.
Absolutely.
Whether benefit shows or writing from your own issues because music helped you is so leading into that, like what inspires, like who writes the lyrics and what inspires you?
Yeah, I can take that. So I write most of the lyrics. I certainly take some suggestions or inspiration from the rest of the members. I know that Cam and Elliot have contributed to lyrics on individual songs, but I write for the most part. And it starts off with inspiration from the music. Like I'll listen to the instrumental over and over until it's super stuck in my head, and I just kind of I'll turn on my mic and I'll just kind of hit record and just like whatever sounds come out. I don't even have words, it's just random noises. And for the screams, it's just the rhythm. And then I'll record that and I'll listen back to it and I'll fit lyrics to the sounds that came out naturally. So I never feel like I'm really trying to force specific lyrics. I'm always trying to hit a certain sound. And from there, whatever words come up to me, I just kind of run with it. And then I'm like, oh, I think I'll look at lists of words or think of a feeling and I'll get it from the thesaurus, and certain words just jump out off the page to me. And I'm like, okay, that's going to go in there. And then once I have a little bit of a lyrical basis, then I kind of look into my own experiences and try to, flesh it out until the finished thing. And of course, going over it to make sure it's at least somewhat relatable. Hey, Nico. And trying to make it a little catchy, of course, because I want people to sing along. So that's kind of my process. But if you go through the songs we've written so far, only a couple of them are like connected or about real experiences. One song that we're working on is called The Price You Pay, and I decided to make it about Leif Erikson's dad, Eric the Red, a famous Viking. So that whole song is just about him and his life. So that one's a little bit more just fun and comedic, or the other song's a bit more serious. I talk about domestic violence, like existential problems, the issues with existing and stuff like that, dealing with betrayal and things like that. So I'm a little all over the place, just whatever the music tells me. All these songs are in minor keys, so everything's a little dark or sad or serious.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it how you can just kind of, like you said, you can kind of do whatever the music tells you, whatever you're feeling. Sometimes the music kind of evokes like a certain emotion, like, with Edge of Destiny's song, Hurricane, when Gus first came in with the riffs, that's one of the few songs. Most of the songs start, like I start them out writing lyrics and melody, and then we kind of work the music around that. But with Hurricane, Gus came in with this like, his guitar riff, and he was playing it, and then the bassist and the guitar, the drummer started kind of jamming together, and I'm like, this makes me think of like being in like this hurricane, or just like I just feel like the sensation of like wind and water, and so that's kind of like what inspired. I'm like, how can I make that like a song about a hurricane sound interesting to people? You know what I mean? Like, how can I evoke that feeling, but then at the same time make it. And so someone's like, oh, is it about this boyfriend or whatever? I'm like, no, honestly, it's just about a storm. And I just try to make it relatable, like it's fun, kind of like how songs evolve.
Yeah.
So do you have songs?
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, ask your question.
Okay. I was going to say, do you have any songs, speaking of which, since we can like have hidden meanings, right? We can have the songs like, oh yeah, this is about this person, or this is about this situation. And it's kind of like your own secret revenge because they don't know the songs about it. Do you have any songs like
that? I guess kind of. There's a little bit of that in the song Deceiver. I had a bad end to a relationship, actually to a romantic relationship, and also to an employment relationship. I see employment as a relationship between the employee and the company. And so that song is actually about both of those negative experiences, and those people in that company won't ever know that. But those are kind of the feelings that I invoked to write that. Yeah. And then, so Crossfire is inspired by something my mom used to tell me. The chorus says, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. And that's something she used to say, like she was having a bad day or something, and maybe she, gets upset with me over something that should be kind of mundane. And then she, afterwards she'd come around and apologize and say, hey, I had a bad day, and that thing just kind of set me off. It's not your fault, but it is your problem. And I was like, and, as a kid, I was just like, all right, I guess it's just got to deal with it. And so when I was writing that song, on that particular song, I kind of wrote the structure for it, starting on drums, and then got with Cam to write the rest of the instrumentation. And then I had the lyrics ready as well. And so that song is about like the struggle of being born, and the idea that existing is not your fault, but it is your problem. You got to deal with it.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's like,
And I don't know if
that's
she'll notice that if she ever hears it.
yeah, that's like deep, because if you think about it, like, we don't really choose to be born. We don't choose our
Yeah.
life sometimes. I mean, your life is what you make it to a point. But ultimately, the choice of our existence is outside of our scope of choice, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. Like, you didn't choose it, but it's your problem now. Make the best of it.
Good luck.
Maybe this should write about it. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what has been your favorite show so far?
Ooh.
Oh,
You can
man.
take a first stab at that, Kim. I got to think for a bit.
Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We debuted our this year. It was our first show in the end of February, and even though it was like a smaller venue, it was just such a great experience, because it's your first show of being a established band, and like all your friends and family and everybody want to come out and see you. So it was definitely a great experience, my first show. But I've had a lot of great shows, and I love meeting different bands, and I love networking, and I love talking to them and listening to their songs, and what the message that they're trying to give everybody. And I don't know, it's a tough one. I definitely, our first show, that's always a spot for me. But every show that we've done, there's always something that that's just is amazing, and I can get inspired from like I said, other musicians and bands, and just watching them play, I think, is incredible. So oh man, even our Halloween show we did last week was fun. Like, there's so many of them. Even when we played with y'all over where we're at Acadia, even that was an incredible show as well. So that's a tough one. What about for you, Chris? What was your favorite show so far this year?
Yeah, my first thought was the very first show, just because the excitement of that was with this band, first time playing original music, my first time playing original music, especially in this genre. The music I was making before I joined this band was not metal. So it's a bit daunting, but also really fun being like, hey, this is the thing I've been working on. Come check it out. And we got, the house at White Swan, just like, they just filled up, like the whole room completely packed for our set, our little 25-minute set, and then cleared out after us. And I was just like, oh, wow, all those people were really just here to celebrate us. That was really cool. And I agree, our most recent Halloween show. But I think a top contender as well, it might have been the show with you guys at Acadia. It was our debut of Crossfire and another song called Undertow I was going to mention before. Just because after our first show, we only had 4 original songs. And then all of a sudden, we got offered to do that show, and it's supposed to be a 45-minute set. So like, we need more songs. We threw in some covers, but it was like, we need at least 1 or 2 more originals. So we buckled down and wrote those 2 songs within that like month and a half. Wrote it, rehearsed it, performed it. So it was definitely stressful for sure. It kind of tested our ability to work under tight deadlines. But I think we're really excited with how Crossfire has come out so far, and we've made updates to it since then. And with Undertow, like, that song also like means a lot to me, because when I heard the instrumental that Cam sent me, it didn't have a name. It just had this feeling when I heard it on that riff, part of my mouth guitaring, but it's just like, it just felt like something literally grabbing you and pulling you down. And it made me think of an undertow, because when I went to school up in Ithaca, there's these gorges with waterfalls, and they warn people, like, don't swim directly under the waterfall. There's these undertows underneath it, and you'll get pulled in, and it doesn't matter if you're Michael Phelps, like, you can't get out. And people had sadly lost their lives in those before. And at the place I was actually kind of known for people maybe doing that on purpose. So the song Undertow is about depression and thoughts of suicide, which I've dealt with, and people I know I've dealt with. But it's also literally about being trapped in an undertow. So being able to write those 2 songs, Undertow and Crossfire, ahead of that show and then performing them was really exciting. So that has a lot of meaning for me.
Yeah, I definitely want to piggyback off of you a little bit. I think, coming back into the music scene, like I said, I took a break for like 6 years, and coming back and being able to perform and write music, that's always like the best feeling in the world whenever, especially when we, like Chris was saying, we debut new songs like, Undertow and Crossfire, and we just have our new one that we debuted this last month called The Silence. It's always a good feeling, and we're always nervous because we're like, we don't know how the crowd is gonna react, and that's always something with original music. It's like, it sounds cool to us, but let's see how everybody else reacts to it. So I think a lot of the shows that we have debuted new material. Our first show, the song show at Acadia, and then we had song 19th Hole earlier last month where we did. Those are always fun, because we're musicians, we're creative, and we're always creating new music, and being able to share that with people and getting a reaction. I think that's always what I love, is just seeing after we finish the song, just the reaction of the crowd and how it always plays out. So it's always a great feeling. A lot of shows, and we really enjoy it.
Back at you though, you've done some touring. What's your favorite like venues?
Y'all come back from tour, and now it looks like you're going on another tour. Like, how was what's y'all's favorite?
Oh my gosh, we played so many shows this year, which has been so nice considering like COVID, because like I started the band. Unlike y'all, I started the band the year before COVID. So we were getting like all this momentum, and then, everything comes to a screeching halt, which to a new band is like death, or it could be. But we were able to keep things alive. We spent a lot of time in the studio working. We were in the middle of, we're going to do an EP, and we're like, well, let's just do a whole album since we've got nothing but time, right? I started this live stream, Late Nights with Kraevin, and, just for my sanity and just to keep contact with my musician friends everywhere. Everyone was touring. And so, being able to play all those, it's hard to think of like which one would be my favorite. Probably out of this last tour, probably my favorite show would be it was kind of like the best show and worst show all in the same night. What made it the worst was we had a roadie with us, Tyler. He was amazing. He was great. He like drum teched. He helped us out so much on this tour, and he got mugged. In Baltimore, sucks. Which is awful.
Of course, it's Baltimore.
So and that's what everybody says, right? And I had told everybody, because like most guys had never been like really east of Texas, and I don't know if Tyler had ever really, he's from Tennessee, and I don't know if he'd ever really been outside of Tennessee. But so I had told everybody, it's like, hey, we're getting into bigger cities. We're not in the country. It's like, we're not in Texas anymore, Toto. This isn't Austin. You can't just like leave your gear just sitting there next to the stage. Someone might steal it, like we have to like keep an eye on our gear. Let's do a buddy system going to and from the tour bus. Like, don't ever anybody be outside alone. And of course, brain fart, you wander out to the tour bus really quick to grab something, and he got mugged in Baltimore. So
jeez,
that was like the worst.
He didn't get hurt, did he? Like they just took his stuff, or
he was like knocked out, so he had like a little like thing on his head, but he said he was fine. But like, when he woke up, like his phone was gone. All the money had been pulled out of his wallet. They left the car, like the wallet in the car. So they pretty much just probably grabbed the cash and left. And then, and then his like watch was gone. Yeah. So like, cash, watch, phone, like all that gone.
What a bunch of scumbags.
Yeah. So that like made it the worst show. But like, as far as like up until that point, it being the best show, it was one of the bigger venues that we played on tour in Baltimore. And whenever I'm like in a new area, I like, especially like instead of just hanging out until we go on stage, I like to like kind of hang out with people and I'll talk to people. And we were in this like plaza area where it's like a bunch of restaurants and bars, like all kind of like in one little pedestrian area. And we should have, the crime was insane because there's like a SWAT team like around the outside of like this plaza. Like, cops everywhere. Probably should have known, like, go to the tour bus alone. But anyway, so I was like walking around this plaza, my whole show get up or whatever. And I was like talking to people like, hey, you should come up here. We're playing a upstairs, like yada yada in this venue. And so this whole group of like 14 girls I was talking to, that was like bachelorette party or something. I have been talking to them. I'm like, yeah, come and see me up there, right? They actually showed up. They all 14 of them start coming in while we're playing. And you know, and it was just wild. It was like
Nice.
they're screaming, they don't know who we are, but they don't care because they're drunk.
Yeah.
And so like I jump off stage, I'm like dancing with them, and then like they really made it a fun night. It was a lot of fun.
Had the squad rolling deep. That's what's up.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. I dragged the bride up and was like, congratulate the bride. But yeah, it was fun having like 14 screaming girls like right there in front of the stage. I know the boys were happy. They were just like, yeah, I've never seen Chris and Johnny. I mean, they're already wild on stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that night they were insane. And then it was cool because we actually had a photographer that we were paying to be there. And she's like, you guys are so crazy. I could not stop taking photos. She sends us like 1,000 photos.
Nice.
Like, I couldn't stop. Like, here you go. Here's that. I'm like, that was great.
She got a bunch of free photos because she was just
So she was like, we only paid for like a certain amount, but she's like, I couldn't stop. So here you go. I'm like, 50
Take all.
Nice. That's a good deal.
Like, done.
Photography and videography is a cost that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's hefty most of the time.
It is. It's hefty, but it's funny. Out of all of the costs as a band, I think a lot of bands don't value the importance of spending the money on photography and videography. And that's something like I kind of had to explain to, you know, my band members coming on board. It was because this was like the first like bigger band that they'd ever really been. I think this is the first metal band Chris has ever played for. He's mostly been like mastering engineer and whatever. He wasn't really into like the whole live and gigging and touring thing. And then Johnny, he's been in like a few original projects before, but I don't know that he ever really toured with them. So this was like kind of, I'm like, for a band like ours, an original project, you know, and I told them, you know, especially starting out, 75% of your fan base are probably never going to see you live. And like, even for large bands, if you think about it, think of all those bands like Slayer, Metallica, like Queen, like all these bands that we grew up listening to. I've never seen a live show. I got to see Slayer a couple of years back, but like, unless you like can afford the tickets and you go, or you get lucky and you get on one of these festivals, you get to see like 200 bands all in the same like weekend. Most people are never going to see your live show. Now, thankfully, we have modern technology. We have live streaming now. We can make music videos and like all these things. But the only way people actually get to experience your music other than streaming and listening is via your photos and the videos that you make. So to me, it's like one of the most important costs as a band, second only to recording. You know, it's like spend the money on your recordings because your recordings have to be amazing. It's the biggest representation of music. And pay that. If there's a photographer standing there and she's like, hey, $50, I'll take photos of you. Yes, please. Here's my money. Take it. Because
all that media stuff I just consider advertising. And I think advertising is going to be your biggest cost. Even your studio album is like an advertisement for the live show. It's like you're going to make money from your live show and like selling merch. So like, here's this thing. It's the ad saying, hey, you like this song now. Come see us do it live. Come on. Buy tickets.
Exactly.
It's all just advertising.
It's the best form of advertising because it's like, yeah, you can pay a photographer like $300 or $400, right? It's like going rate. Like I know some are like $200 or whatever, but for like a really, really good photographer, it's like $300 to $400 for a photo shoot, right? So you can get maybe 2 or 3 really good quality band photos. Or you pay somebody $50 or $100, come take a photo, take photos at my shows, and then you might get like 10 or 15, maybe even 20. Or like this chick, she's like, I love you, here's 1,000 photos. I'm like, I've got content for like the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's great. All righty. So now we get to go to the down and dirty. I don't know if you guys have seen any of my other live streams, but after we kind of get a little of the, oh, this is the band and whatever, and I've kind of eased you into all the questions. Now we get to have fun.
She's like, what's your dirty, darkest secrets? Here
yes, the dirty, darkest secrets. So if your mamas are watching, if your girlfriends are watching, if your wives are watching, don't worry because they probably have more dirt on you than I could ever dig up in one interview. And ladies, if you are watching, if you have any of these significant others or friends or family, whatever, please share their dirty secrets. There are comments and I can see them. Ask your questions. Throw our friends under the bus because we're all in a safe place. All righty. So here we go. I'll go a little easy on you at first. What is the most embarrassing song in your playlist or like your guilty pleasure artist?
Most embarrassing song.
Yes.
I mean, I've always been a Bee Gees. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't say it's like embarrassing, but that is actually my number one karaoke song. Like Staying Alive. That's my number one karaoke song. So I always have the Bee Gees in my playlist because I've always been a Bee Gees fan growing up. It's weird. It's disco era, but it's always there. And whenever it comes on, I karaoke and I jam to it.
Nice. That's classic. You
got
to do the little thing too, right?
The dance too. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Whenever people ask me, what's your karaoke song, and I'm like Bee Gees, Staying Alive, 100%.
I can't believe I haven't seen this yet. I need to go see it.
I know, right? It's like karaoke night, guys. I've been down for
karaoke night. Yeah. But yeah, I always have it sounds weird, but I always have the Bee Gees on my playlist. No, it's kind of so if you haven't heard the Bee Gees, you got to go check them out. Disco era.
Nice.
Bee Gees are awesome. What about you, Craig?
I don't know that it's actually embarrassing because I think these guys are both geniuses, but their music is a little bit extra and ridiculous. And it's like a tie between Young Thug and Riff Raff. Like I usually like people who are very like cerebral in their lyrics. So I like to listen to a lot of like Tool or like even Kendrick Lamar if we're talking about hip hop. And Riff Raff and Young Thug just say some of the wildest shit, and it's just so funny. And particularly from Young Thug, there's a song called Harambe, and you just got to go listen to it. It's the most wild ridiculousness ever, and I love it. And I jam that stuff. I can't stop.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always joke around.
And for Riff Raff, the whole Neon Icon album is just this pure comedy and ridiculousness.
Neon Icon, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard it, but I don't.
You gotta check it out.
I'll have to check it out. But yeah, I always joke around like you can pretty much get away with saying anything you want in song lyrics, like literally anything. Like
for sure.
There's some crazy shit out there. Like like a friend of mine, we were sitting here and we were working on a collaboration in the studio, and we're like, when you get to that point of like overthinking lyrics and we're going to set this down and we're going to come back to this tomorrow because it's probably like we're just being dumb, right? At that point you're just like beating your head against the wall. It's like lyrics are almost done, you're trying to get them done, you're like these 2 lines, blah, 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 whatever. Like, okay, fine. So then I'm sitting here like the next day and a friend sends me this song and it's like really raunchy and dirty and it's about some guy like going down on his girl, like Oreos or whatever. And I'm sitting here and he sends me this. He's like, oh, I thought you'd find this funny. And I don't know what this song is, right? And I've got like, my monitors plugged in, everything. And it's like 9:00 in the morning. And, I'm like, oh my God, turn it down. And I was like, but it was like, these lyrics are just like, ridiculous and they're funny and like the song is fun and it's got like a beat to it, right? Because it's like they take the melody of like don't worry, be happy, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I stress over lyrics and this stuff goes viral. And I'm like sitting there and my friend showed it to my friend, what are you listening to? And I'm like, listen to this. He's like, we're in the wrong genre. He's like, just
True.
He's like, why are we in metal right
Absolutely.
now? Like, let's just write a song like this so we don't have to worry about
I think about that all the time. Like I'll try to make my lyrics so like, I want to be so thought-provoking or whatever. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I want people to sing it. And some people made a song where every lyric is around the world for literally 3 minutes straight. Just around the world.
Yeah.
And every person on this planet knows the song. So I should probably not put so much pressure on myself.
Yeah. So anytime I start doing that, because we do, like, as artists, we overthink it. It's like, oh, we want to have like perfect lyrics and the perfect riffs and whatever. I will pull up that song and listen to it just to like remind myself, like, don't take it so seriously. Like, it'll happen. And then, yeah. But music like that just blows my mind. I actually wrote like one of our songs about that is like a song by The Weeknd when it came out. I Can't Feel My Face. Hated that song. I was like, this is the most bullshit song. Like, it's so simple, but it got after you hear it, and it's like everywhere because you know how the radio is. It's like everywhere, and then you go to the mall and it's playing, and then you go to Walmart and it's playing, and it's like you can't get away from this ridiculous song. And I was like, after a week, I had it stuck in my head. By week 2, I'm singing it. I'm like, that's it. I've been brainwashed into loving this song. And so I wrote a song about how like a song gets stuck in your head, and at first you hate it, and then you grow to love it. But it's like, is it real or is it a dream or like fantasy? Because it's like, do I really like it, or does it just, I feel like I should like it because now I've been singing it forever, you know?
I have a good book for you to read, or two good books. One's called This Is Your Brain on Music, and the other one's called Musicophilia. And they both talk about this concept of how we are like programmed to like certain kinds of music, because the more you hear music, the more your actual neural pathways adjust to be ready to hear it again. So each time you hear it, it actually becomes more and more pleasing, and it's like on a neurological level. So those are good books I should let you borrow.
Yes, I'll definitely read those because I'm fascinated by the concept, and that'll be on our next album at some point. But yeah, it's called Out of My Head, and it's because I couldn't get the stupid song out of my head. And now I'm a Weeknd fan, and it's not really a guilty
mad catchy,
I guess, but like, oh my god,
he's so popular. Nothing to be guilty about.
Yeah, he's so popular. Like, who doesn't like The Weeknd?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, how old were you the first time you had sex?
Am I going
16. First? Oh, I'm already done.
I'm a virgin.
That's like my first.
16. Not much else to tell.
I'm about to say 16 as well. Yeah, not much to tell. High school. First.
I guess it's kind of embarrassing. I was down bad, and I was not popular with the girls in my own school, so I met a girl online, and she lived in Conroe, and I had to have my mom take me all the way to Conroe so I could get some. That's how I got
it. That's hilarious.
Your Facebook page. Someone, Josh says, "Oh God, 12." Woohoo! Hi, Josh.
Yes.
There he is.
Josh. Oh, to have you on here and tell that story. 12 years old.
The Lord, my man.
I'm over
here
like
Lil Wayne.
Pokemon cards and trying to figure out,
I didn't even know what sex was when I was 12.
I'm just thinking that was like the late 90s, and I'm over here just like, I'm trying to figure out how to dress myself and Pokemon cards and man.
That's wild to me. Like 12 was around the time I went on my first date to a movie with a girl. Again, had to be chaperoned by my mom, who's sitting like 3 rows back in the movie theater. And I'm scared for like the first hour of the movie to even hold her hands. And this dude's out here in them walls. I don't understand.
12 years old.
Wild.
Mad respect.
So this is what he said. I can actually show the comment on here. Rhizomata.
Oh my Lord.
And thick and couldn't resist. Woo!
There you go.
Yeah. Love it.
Love it.
That is Josh from Rhizomata chiming in. He couldn't be on the live stream, but he's in the comments. He's sharing all his dirty little secrets. I love it. All right. So she was older. How much older? Says
just a
year older.
All right, my dude.
Just a year older. Okay. Well, have you guys ever had sex or been in a relationship with an older woman? And if so, how much older?
Yes, briefly. She was 16 years older than me. And this was just a few years back, just before I met my now fiance. But that was the gap. It was very short. It was like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing, no older. I think the oldest I've ever dated, she was only like 4 or 5 years older. So it wasn't like a crazy gap, but yeah, nothing out of the ordinary. So,
Yeah.
and then there's Josh over here chiming in here.
I'm a little proud of that one too. It's cool. You can quote me on that.
So, all right, let's see. Do you know any swear words in another language?
A little bit of Spanish.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit Spanish because we live in Texas.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
is
that's
a
about it.
I'm supposed to start listing them off with my shitty accent. Like I don't want to embarrass myself.
there you go.
No thanks.
Start swearing in whatever. No. I'm always fascinated by people who can actually speak multiple languages. Like, Chris, he's German, so he speaks German, and it's fascinating to like hear him and his roommate talk to each other because, they'll sit there and they'll both morph into German and forget, like, they don't notice they're speaking German, hey, hello, we're over here, speak English. And like we had another guitarist for a minute and he was like, hey, guys, we don't understand you, speak English. And I'm like, shh, let the Germans speak.
Yeah, it's like fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to. Sometimes you can like try to like imagine what they're talking about just by like the inflection in their voice and kind of, I don't know, it's just fun for me to listen to. I have a lot of friends that speak other languages, and one of my best man for my wedding is Chinese, and it was always cool because him and my old engineering teacher, I used to ask like, which language do you think in usually, like your inner dialogue? And he's like, oh yeah, well now I've been here so long, I mostly think in English, but I do all my math in my head in Chinese or in Mandarin because he first learned math in Chinese. So every time I switched to do math, like I would hear him start mumbling in Mandarin all of a sudden. It was very interesting. I like that.
Josh just said, it's all fun and games till an arm goes up.
For what?
All fun and games till an arm goes up.
For what?
I'm lost. This is about speaking other languages?
I'm like, are you a little behind? I'm like, he just posted that, so we're talking about other languages. So, Josh.
Yeah, I'm right there with you though. Like my wife, she's Colombian, and her whole family's from Colombia, and I'm the same way. I just, whenever she's speaking with her family, I just sit there and I'm not trying to stare, but I just like the language, and it's just them speaking together, and then I just try to pick out little phrases or words, and I kind of can formulate a sentence through that. But I'm the same way. I just like to be like, shh, let them talk.
I just got Josh's joke. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's in poor taste.
Josh is like, it took a minute to load. My bad. I was joking about Chris speaking German.
And that's what you're talking about. It's fun listening to speak German until an arm goes up. Good old Josh.
Oh my gosh, Josh, I love you so much. We love inappropriate humor here. Like Chris, like when we have one of our fill-in drummers is Ron Gov, and he is from Israel. He is Jewish. And he will make the funniest, like most inappropriate jokes ever. But I'm like, he's Jewish, like he can say these things. So he'll make like German jokes all the time, or like Holocaust jokes, and I'm just like, I can't stop laughing. It's just funny.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to laugh or how I should feel.
I know, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm Jewish. I have a twisted sense of humor. We all do. We don't take ourselves so seriously.
We gotta cope. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, I think so. Like so he'll make jokes around about like how him and Chris are best friends. They've solved like the World War II crisis and like all these things. It's funny. It's cute. A little bromance going. All right. So
every time Cameron asks me to do something for the band, I'm like, yes, massa.
I love it. That's the thing. Humor can make us all happy, bridge a lot. It can also heal. Like laughter really does heal the soul. Like, a lot of people say, but it really can. Like sometimes it's like, oh, that's inappropriate to laugh at. But I'm like, if you can't laugh, you're gonna cry, and I'm done crying about it. Sometimes it's nice to just have some humor and just be like, you know what, that's how the world was. It's not that anymore.
I really like that. I'm gonna use that. If I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry, and I'm done crying. That's a good one.
A new lyric for a song.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, I don't know. I'm one of those people, like, I laugh inappropriately all the time. Like, and I'll joke inappropriately. It's like, call me if you're sad, because I will probably say something really stupid and funny, and then you're going to forget. Or I'll tell you something dumb and dramatic, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that really happened. And then you completely forget about your issues. That's kind of the point, right? To forget about our troubles. It's like an escape. Humor, laughter, and music, an escape from our shitty reality. Although reality can be great, and then music makes it better. So what is, let's see, when is the most like embarrassing time you've ever had a boner?
Oh my God. Like every time I have this weird thing. It's weird that I actually went first with this one. But I just thought about that.
I think we have the same answer, but go ahead.
But I don't know.
Strangely enough.
I had this weird thing. Is I call it like, NRBs, like no reason boners and stuff, where they just randomly pop up. But I used to get them all the time, like in like tests and stuff at like school. Like, so you'd be taking a test and then it's like, oh, now I have to hand in my test. Hold up, I got to sit here for a second. Let me adjust. I used to, even when I was in college, I would do that. I'd be like, I don't know what it is. I guess just like stress, nerves or something. But I used to get them all the time and like, look at that, at cans every time. You know it, man. You don't even have to be shy about it.
For me, I hope this doesn't make me look like an absolute weirdo, but I'm going to be honest. It's in any relationship I've been in, and my partner is crying, and it wasn't my fault. Like, I didn't upset them, but they're upset about something, and they're crying, and they want me to hold them. I would always get a reactionary boner to them, to be comforting them while they're crying. And I was like, this is not appropriate. She's sad because her dog's dead. So let me just.
But for some reason, I'm
that away.
On.
It was my romantic partner crying, and those would be the awkward ones for me, for sure.
Oh, man. Now mine doesn't feel so weird.
What's the craziest place you've ever had sex?
It's actually funny you bring that up, because when I was in college, actually, I was dating this girl, and we actually had a game where we could see where the craziest places we could have like sex at, and everywhere from the beach to the ocean to like dressing rooms. So probably the craziest one would probably be right outside of like Hobby Airport's gates. Probably the craziest one, where there's like tons of people. But yeah, that's probably it. I think like dressing rooms, I wouldn't say it's crazy. I feel like dressing rooms are so cliche. Yeah, probably we were at Hobby Airport, right in front of like the gates, like where you walk in and stuff, where there's people walking around, and I had a very tinted vehicle at the time. I call it my Black Beauty. Josh knows of Black Beauty. It was my 96 Blazer that I drove until it finally died. But yeah, that was it. And then I don't know. That's probably about it. Probably about the craziest place. Probably about Hobby Airport. I feel like cliche as well. What about you, Chris? What is the craziest place?
So I haven't. I guess for some people it would be crazy, and others it wouldn't be. So I'm gonna go with the one that I think is actually crazy, and it's my high school girlfriend's house, because she had really, really racist parents. She was half Tunisian and half Chinese, and her parents were super duper, super racist, hated me. We're fine with like me coming over to like help them with the property they owned before we were dating, help them clean out, because they had to kick out some hoarders. But then once I started dating her, they were very much against that. But I would sneak into her room through the window, very like cliche. And we'd do the deed in there. And I ended up getting caught hiding in her closet once by her dad, who then threatened to shoot me with a shotgun, and didn't let me like grab any of my stuff. I was just like wearing some gym shorts and like my other pants were somewhere else, and he told me to get the fuck out, and I had to like walk to really far to a bus stop and get home. So yeah, probably trying to get some at the risk of being killed because we're in Texas, and he would have gotten away with it.
Like it's like spiteful sex is more what it is.
I did rub my nuts on her parents' pillow in revenge. We did. We had sex in their bed, and then I rubbed my nuts on their pillow.
Oh my god.
Oh my
So
god.
That's the craziest.
Okay. Josh says bluntly, his most awkward boner was in front of a chick when she sat on my lap, was probably 6th or 7th grade. And also Chris is trying to be like, don't worry, baby, I can cheer you up with this D.
Oh Lord.
Josh based dash Chris.
That's for the teabagging the pillow, I'm sure.
Yes.
Oh, God. Just roll over. It's like, why does my pillow smell kind of funky?
I don't feel bad for that one. I don't feel bad for that one at all.
So what are some other things, like, since we're on the kind of revenge topic or spite topic, like what are, we heard you teabagged a pillow. What's a crazy thing, or what would you say is the craziest thing you did to, like, whether you knew about it or not, to like spite somebody that just like you were just like over?
See, I'm weird. I'm not a very like revengeful person or spiteful person, but I will drop you really fast though, and you'll never never exist in my like eyes anymore. But yeah, I've never been like super spiteful or like revenge, stricken person. So I really can't think of like when I was just super petty or spiteful. I can name relationships that were very petty and spiteful. But yeah, I can't really think one off the top of my head. Like I said, I never was a very spiteful or revengeful person. So no, I didn't teabag anybody's pillows or anything.
No.
I'll keep that in mind next time I want to get back at somebody. Just dip my balls on your pillow.
Well, like Johnny and I were talking about, Johnny's my bassist, and we were talking about last night when we were hanging out, like how we've had, like, I have shitty neighbors where I'm at. Like, they hate me. They hate tour buses parked in the driveway. They hate it when I don't park it in the driveway and I park it on the street. They try and get it towed. They try and tow my car when I move it out of the driveway. Like, they bitch about everything because, I don't know, they don't like that a rock band lives here. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do when we start rehearsal this week for tour. They're going to lose their fucking mind. But we have sound treated. I have gotten a decibel meter and measured from the edge of my property. So we're like fine as far as like noise ordinances. But I am sure I'm going to get the police. They call the police all the time. And so Johnny was talking about how one time, like, his neighbor was always pissy because he would like walk his dog, and like the neighbor's trash can would be right there, and the dog would take a shit and he'd pick up the poop, right, put it in a little bag and throw it in the neighbor's trash. Neighbor got pissed about it, called the police on him, and the police is like, and so Johnny's like, well, what did I do wrong? Like, is there a law against that? And the police is like, well, no, but the neighbor called me. And he's like, so that's it? That's all? Like, he's like, well, yeah, he'd prefer you not do that. And he's like, but did I break a law? Like, is there something I did wrong? And the policeman's like, well, no, not technically. And he's like, okay, then.
Get out of here.
So then he goes out of his way, like every time his dog takes a shit, he goes and puts it in the neighbor's trash.
Goes to the dog park and is like collecting it and just throwing shit in his fucking. Yes.
Yeah. I don't get that. I've seen that's such a popular thing. Like, if you put your trash in someone else's bin and they're like, you can't do that. I'm like, it's all going to the same place. Chill.
Yeah. It's like, if your bin is outside, that means it's trash day. That means that your trash is going to be collected. So it's not like it's going to be sitting there for like weeks or months or whatever, like stinking up your house. It's outside. And the garbage truck is going to come sometime within the next like 12 hours to get it. So what's the point? of being mad.
I think the issue is like you live in the suburbs, and I think when you move out away from the city and into the suburbs, you get bored and you gotta bring some drama into your life. So you get really petty about those little things sometimes. It affects some people worse than others.
Yeah, I never understood why things like upset people. Like when we just moved into our house in May, and there was a piece of plywood on the side of the house that was just sitting there, and I was like, all right, big trash day is like next month. It was like on like the 12th of like the following month. I was like, all right, just leave it there and wait for it. I had a neighbor, I don't know who it was, but they would be leaving like notes like on my door, like, hey, can you move that piece of wood? It's an eyesore. I don't like looking at it whenever I come home. And then I just kind of like shrugged it off. And then like I get another note that's like, when are you going to move this piece of wood? And I was just like, this piece of wood is really like bothering you to the point where you're like having to like write notes and stick it on your neighbor's door. And I'm just
Christ,
like, and I'm like,
sorry, Your Majesty, like by her royal decree, this displeases me. Be gone.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. Like, I was just like, I got to the point where I'm just like, whatever. I'm just gonna. I told my wife, I was like, I'm at the point where I just want to like spray paint a big like smiley face on it to make it look even more ridiculous. But
yeah.
But I just, and then trash day came, and I just put it out the trash, and they came and collected it, and I was just like, I hope they saw it being taken away too. So I don't understand like why people get so upset about like the dumbest things, or why they have to like lash out, like with putting dog poop in a trash can where it belongs. Like, come on.
They're bored and they want drama in their life.
They hate their life, so they're going to take all their angst and anger out on you because they can't. Here's the thing: is our life is what we make it, right? We create our own misery. We really do. Like everything, and this is my theory anyway, not to get like all philosophical, but like, you get what you put out into the universe. So like we're living our dreams, right? We're musicians. We're daring to be different. We're taking the unpaved path, right? And, not everybody does that. Other people, they just do what people tell them they should do. And maybe they're bitter and angry. And then they see somebody who's like, oh, you're living your best life. You look happy. I'm going to piss on your dreams because I don't get to live mine. That's kind of how I see it. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're angry and bitter and whatever. But yes, people suck, like Josh says.
You don't even have the common decency to put what house you're from either.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, let you just watch. Just like get like a motion sensor camera and throw it on there.
I was like, when you get one of those little Ring doorbells, which is on our bucket list, but for the. But so next time they put a little note on my door, I'd be like, I know who you are.
Yeah, because the neighbors are crazy. Like they're crazy. Like I sit there, like I can park 6 cars in my driveway. Like if I line them up, like on both sides, right? Depending on the side. Obviously, if I got like a big full size pickup, probably only like 2 cars on that side, but. I have a long driveway. Like our entire tour bus can fit in it. And
yeah, it's pretty good.
So, and like when I have parties or barbecues or whatever, it's Texas. We have barbecue for everything. I will move the tour bus down to the end of the street and I'll park it. There's nothing there, right? No houses, no driveways, no nothing. I'm not blocking anything. I will move it down there so that more people can park in my driveway. And I will get bitched twice. I will get bitched at. They will call the cops or try and tow the tour bus. They've told the cops that it's an abandoned vehicle, and it was like 3 days after I bought the damn thing. It still had like the paper plates on the back, and they're trying to tow it. And then, the vehicle's in her driveway. I'm sorry. Am I not allowed to have 6 cars in my driveway? When did that become against the law? They're not broken down. They're not like, like, oh, I've got like a bunch of, it looks like a freaking auto repair shop in my driveway. It's literally like running vehicles parked in my drivay and you have a problem.
So I have friends that want to hang out with me.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
If they're all
my bad.
They're all street legal and they're got your registration, inspection, everything, then they can piss off. Like, what is your deal?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I'm thinking, Cameron, what you need to do for your neighbor. Like, I really love this subreddit called malicious compliance, where if you're not doing something, like people are trying to tell you to do it the right way, and you're like, all right, I'm going to do it so right that it pisses you off. And I think what you should do is like get a new piece of plywood, and leave it out in the morning for them to see when they get up. But then you just put it away, but you don't do it every day. So if they ever do try to call a complaint, they won't know when it's going to be there. And just like every 3 or 4 days, you just go and put it out there in the at night. And
I get a note on my door, be like, yeah, there's some days where it's out there and there's some days where it's not.
I think this is just an artistic choice.
Yeah. Well, it's like I have to do that with our tour bus. We have to move it around, like, because like they'll complain and like you're not allowed to store a vehicle on your property for longer than a certain period of time, right? And so I'm like, well, it's not stored, it's drivable, right? We use it. And it's like, oh, well, you know, I haven't seen it move in like, you know, 2 months. I'm like, dude, it was on tour for like 4 weeks. I can send you my schedule, like my Instagram, like all the things, right? And so I'm like, it moves. So I just do this thing where it's like, sometimes I back it in, sometimes I pull straight in, sometimes I park on the right side of my driveway, sometimes I park on the left side of the driveway.
Always moving.
It's like, it moves. I don't store it.
Sometimes I drive into a Starbucks and get coffee in the morning.
I would literally every time the 2 months, like you're at day 59 out of 60, I would get in the tour bus, I would drive it to the end of the block and turn around and come right back.
Start over at 0. Horn for it. Get a super obnoxious horn. Every time you're backing up, just start beeping it really loud.
Yes, we come back from Houston at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, just get the loud like that thing.
Be like, sorry, we were backing it up. This is just safety protocols. In order to back it up, you have to signal that you're.
Yeah, the wide load.
Go really slow. Get someone in like the you know, like the airport crew with the glow sticks, like directing you into the spot. Just make a big spectacle of it every time. Train horn. Yeah, that's gonna break a noise ordinance for sure. Train horns are absurd.
Josh says, it offends me that you're doing what you want. More on neighbors. Exactly. And that's what it comes down to. It's like, honestly, if you're not depreciating the neighborhood, you're not damaging property, you're not doing anything that adversely affects somebody else's resale value. In fact, you never know. The fact that like our band lives on this block might be like an amazing reason to actually live here because we're awesome. We actually really are. Sure. Like, we throw really awesome barbecues. My guys will actually help people with things if you ask nicely. You know, they can lift heavy objects. They lift their amps all the time. But yeah, it's like neighbors are dumb. It's like, you can pay one of my roommates to mow your yard if you want. Like, like while we're out mowing ours, we'll just mow the whole cul-de-sac. It's fine.
Have you actually met your neighbors, or is it all through like
no, I met them, and there's some two-faced motherfuckers too, because they'll be like, oh, I don't know who did that, yada yada. I'm like, I know it was you, because the fact that that even happened, how would you know unless, because I didn't mention anything, right? So yeah, I had actually after my 4th of July, it's 4th of July, and we, you know, I live in a cul-de-sac, and we set off like some fireworks, whatever. And I have, you know, my kids, and then we had like a party and we had a bunch of people over and everyone's running around the cul-de-sac, neighbors included. My neighbor to the left of me, their kids are out there with the sparklers and they're running around, you know, having fun. It's 4th of July, right? It's like a patriotic thing. And the next day, I have the mummy at my door at like 9 a.m. I'm not conscious at 9 a.m. I'm like standing there like half alive, staring at this literal mummy. She's got like her face wrapped in gauze. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? And she's like, you and your hoodlums running the streets. I was scared for my life. And she's like, you're going to burn my house down? I'm like, they're sparklers. Like, they're sparklers. Like, and Roman candles and like some of the little box, you set the box, and the little cul-de-sac thing goes up, like the little fountain. Yeah. I'm like, we're not gonna burn your house down. And my 7-year-old and Johnny were like, they had like these flaming swords, and Johnny posted a video of it. He's running around in like these tiny little like Daisy Duke looking like American flag shorts with a sword, flaming sword in his mouth, and it's like shooting sparklers out the end, right? He's running around out there with the kids, and apparently it made her afraid for her life.
Oh.
because of all the problems and, you know, all of this stuff. And it's like, oh, and trash blew in my yard from your ever. And of course, my son, who's older, he hears somebody bitching out mom, and he goes straight into like, who the fuck's bitching mom out, right? He's standing in the hall like, you need to look like I'm like, stay there, please don't. I don't need somebody going to jail other than me.
You can
right
start
now.
swinging.
Yeah, so he's standing there like, and so I'm talking to this mummy, and she's bitching me out. I'm standing there, I'm trying so hard not to laugh because I'm like, I always laugh at inappropriate moments when I'm feeling awkward, scared, whatever, sad. I laugh, and it's a mummy standing at my desk. I'm like, am I still dreaming? Like, I can't take you seriously right now while you're mummified in my front door yelling at me about terrorizing the neighborhood while you look like something out of a horror film.
Yeah, you just like wish you had like a camera on like watching your door so you could go get the footage for like, ma'am, do you know what you look like right now?
I'm like, I'm terrified right now. Like, I've got like some dead Egyptian somebody here.
Straight up Cleopatra up in here.
And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, so I finally like crack, right? I'm like, and I do like this, like, and I choke back like this laugh because I'm just over it. And she's like, and by the way, I should be resting right now because I had plastic surgery. And she's trying to like unwrap her face to show me. I'm like,
no. Please
and
don't.
She's so lucky. I was like I was trying to be a nice neighbor because normally, like, had I had a cup of coffee, I'd have been like, I'm sorry, there's no amount of plastic surgery that's gonna like help you. I didn't say that though. I didn't say that. I thought I didn't say it. I was just standing there like, ma'am, I'm not going to apologize for having sparklers on the 4th of July. But if there is any trash in your yard, I promise that my son will go pick it up. And so she was like, nah. I'm like, I closed the door. And I looked at my son. I'm like, will you go and see if like there's any trash in her yard? Just be neighborly. I was like, but don't speak. Don't say a fucking word. I don't want to hear about how you like came out and attacked her and got violent and threatened her because God knows. So he's like, oh, I'll go over there. So he goes out. He's like 6 foot something. I don't know, like 6 foot tall. He's really tall. He goes out the door and he starts his teenage brood like walking across the yard with his face. She literally didn't even get to her front door. She climbed in her car and just sat in her car and waited until he was done picking up the trash. And I stood and I'm like, bye. Have a nice day. Like,
Wowzers. I think we're looking at it too, like surface level. Like, it's one easy explanation, just like you got these annoying neighbors or they're crazier. I think they know about your show and they're all doing this so they can get featured on your show via these stories. You didn't think about that. Everyone around you's trying to get their little moment in the spotlight so they can listen to the stream and be like, yo, that's me. I was that crazy neighbor.
I was that crazy neighbor. Mummified. Maybe. They want to be. That's it.
Shout out to the mummified neighbor.
Next time someone comes up,
neighbor, Dean Grand, Dean. He says, I used to have freaky neighbors like that. I don't live there anymore. Yeah, I actually had a band. We used to practice every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday if we didn't have a gig on the weekend. And we actually forced our neighbors to move because they kept calling the police. The police are like, we can't do anything. Like, it meets the noise. There's no like noise violations. And so this was up. They were leasing and they moved out. And we were all there having a barbecue because he's like, hey, the neighbors are moving out today. It was at my guitarist's house at the time. He's like, the neighbors are moving out today.
Did you guys set up a rehearsal for when they were moving out so they had a soundtrack to move out to?
We did. We had a barbecue and the whole thing, grilling out on the driveway, and then we practiced with the garage door open. And then we're like, bye, when the new whole truck is like backing out and they're like flipping us off. It was funny.
Oh, they were pissed.
They were mad because I mean, I don't know. I have the wonderful capacity to just be able to tune out anything and sleep through anything. So not a lot really annoys me. And like, I can always turn my TV louder. You know, I can always just put on headphones. Like, I'm just the type like live and let live. We've only got one life. I'm not going to spend mine angry at somebody for living theirs, as long as it's not literally affecting me. Like, at the end of the day, like what we do as neighbors, like, oh, I put trash in your trash can and whatever. Like those little things aren't really affecting the other person. They're choosing to be angry about something that really they don't, they could literally just go in their house and pretend like they didn't see him put the shit in the trash. And like my tour bus in the driveway isn't an eyesore. It's a beautiful thing. I get compliments
I
on
thought it was
it.
cool. I wanted to climb up on top of it because I saw the ladder on the back, but then I was like, I should probably ask first.
Chris did, like our first time we went on tour with it. He climbed on it and he did this whole "I'm the king of the world" up on the tour bus. And he let his hair down. It was flowing in the wind. It was fun. But it's like it's a beautiful. It's not like run down. It's not like falling apart. It's like it's not like somebody's living in it out in the driveway. It's just there, and we get it almost like it's like it doesn't even. And my house is so big, like it doesn't even block the house. It's not bigger than the house. You can still see the number, the house number. The postman can still find us. Like, I don't. Life's too short to be angry. So, speaking of happiness, when was the last time you like laughed the hardest?
Just earlier tonight on the couch with my fiance, we were cracking up. I can't even remember what we were talking about. Actually, I do remember now. We were laying there, and she had one of her blankets across her stomach and not on her legs. And I had a blanket on my legs. And she goes and grabs my blanket and puts it on her legs. So, and I just start like going crazy, like, why are you stealing my blanket? And she's like, I bought this blanket. And then I was just like, you understand that this is like chaotic evil right now, that you already have a blanket and you're taking my only blanket. And we're cracking up so hard, like stomach hurting kind of thing. So it was just a fun situation.
Yes, us girls still blankets.
I laugh every day, and I laugh at myself. But I have like a weird thing. So if I laugh too hard, I actually throw up. That's like that's an actual thing with me. Like if I laugh too hard, I'll throw up. So if you actually get to me to the point where I'm like throwing up, that means you got me to the point of like, that's it. That's the top peak for me.
Two things now. My life goal to make you throw up. And secondly, we're going to have a new system of how we rate comedians. We're going to get you to see every comedian who comes to Houston. And only the ones who throw up is going to be Cameron and Puke verified.
I sent the new live stream.
But
like Chris,
it's the weirdest thing. It's like the strangest things that get me going or something. Like I remember me, Elliot, after we used to go to we used to have practice up in Houston. We would always go to like Whataburger afterwards. You know, we'd be drinking. We just kind of there, and it would always be like the most random things that makes me just laugh like uncontrollably. Like I don't know, like the sound of like the straw coming out of like the cup or something. Like it's always the most ridiculous things that make me just like go to the point of no return. Like it's not necessarily like a comedian. I'd be like, haha, that's funny. It's always like the stupidest things that I'm just like, I don't know why, but at that moment in time, I find it to be the most hysterical thing.
I swear, if we're ever out eating and I lift my straw out my cup and you laugh so hard you puke, dude, we're done.
No, I'm saying it's literally the most like ridiculous things ever. Like it's just like that specific point in time.
I don't know this man. He just walked up to me.
Even back to the whole playing video games thing. I forget. It was a recent thing. Josh probably remembers because I was on, and I was just like, I don't know what we were talking about. I couldn't stop laughing so hard, and I was telling him I was like, "Stop! I'm about to throw up."
All over your keyboard.
All over my keyboard. But yeah, I that's like another weird thing. Yeah, if I laugh too hard, I can throw up.
So
it's rare, but it doesn't happen.
A gag bag everywhere, like the little airplane bags, just in case.
See, no, I don't. I'm like I joke around all the time, and I'm always making stupid comments and everything. So I'm always like laughing at myself and everything. So I think whenever I do find one thing that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that's just where it gets me. It's not like an everyday thing. I'm not over here like throwing up every day. Like I'm over here just like puking every day. Like
don't deny it. Every morning he has to get his
every morning I look in the mirror and I just throw up.
Yeah, he drinks his coffee. Anna makes him throw up, and then he can go about his day because it only happens once a day. That's the limit.
Just wake up, open my eyes, look in the mirror, just like, well, just throw up and just keep going, man.
Be like, oh, get awfully slim. He's like, yeah, I just, cook fest. You watch
I just still love the idea of like comedians battling to see who can make you throw up and being like, I don't know, dude, you couldn't make that guy throw up. I don't think you quite got it yet, and you're not Netflix special ready yet.
No. You don't make me puke. You're not there yet.
No, you gotta do one of those like YouTube like watch video. It's like
reaction videos
to see if you can make him watch a certain comedian and see if he throws up, and then be like, okay, this is their puke factor like 0. It's like,
what's the puke factor?
Like, it triggered the gag reflex, but I didn't really go full projectile, so I'm gonna give him a 3.
It first starts in the stomach. I feel my stomach. Oh god.
Here's the thing. It's gonna completely. Oh, go ahead.
It's like the chuckle. You can feel it in the stomach. It's like, okay, it's building. The acids are building. And then when I start having the dry heaving, I'm like, okay, this is pretty funny.
I feel like it's gonna completely reshape how we look at comedy, because like the people who are seen as the greatest now, like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr and stuff like that, they're not gonna make him puke. It's gonna be some random like no-name comedian who does like absurdist humor, and Cameron's gonna be throwing up uncontrollably, and that's the new funny.
He's over here with his Whataburger cup and just pulling the straw out. And I'm over here just like laughing my ass off.
The whole audience is dead silent. Crickets, and Cameron is just heaving in the front row.
Gosh, fuck that I die, and then let's see. It says Cam farts, and I'm already.
Yeah. The last time the entire band was laughing as a group is last rehearsal when Cam inevitably ripped ass in the rehearsal space.
little 10 by 10 room,
And that man fills it out. Damn protein powder, bro.
Protein.
Too busy getting them gains.
So, what is the most childish thing you still do?
Define childish.
I mean, I don't think it's childish anymore, but I was just at Cam's and he had some stuff for trick-or-treaters, including these little mini packs of Pokemon. And I love Pokemon, and I got this holographic Darkrai card, and I already got it in this protector. And that was just on Halloween this year. So, and yeah, I'm like a big nerd. I like video games and anime. So I have like, where this camera can't see right now, I got like anime posters and stickers and figurines and stuff.
Yeah, I'm about to say I'm still like a nerdy kid and everything. I just moved into my house, and my mom likes to used to like to collect and hoard everything that I had since I was a kid. And she finally dumped the bins over at my house whenever we fully moved here. And I opened up the first bin, and it was my white Falcon Zord Power Ranger, and it was signed by the White Ranger. And I was just like, and this is going on my desk.
That's awesome, dude. The White Ranger is my favorite in that movie. It was dope.
So yeah, I like still like toys and trinkets and stuff, comic books. So I'm a big nerd, but childish. I mean, I'm still a child at heart. I still do childish things.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is like 7 years younger than me, and she's more mature than I am.
That's how it goes, though. I think sometimes you guys like stop maturing at like 10.
Yeah, probably.
I certainly mature in some ways, like in terms of my like social skills, but in terms of my hobbies and the things I enjoy, still like what I grew up on. But that's exactly by design, right? Like they introduce these things to children, and it becomes like a lifelong loyalty to these brands, right? Like I'm gonna like Pokemon till the day I die because I grew up on it. Other kids grew up on Digimon or whatever it was you grew up on. You're like a lifelong fan of it. It's like people stop like changing their music interests a lot, maybe other than musicians, but most people like listen to the same stuff they listened to in middle school and high school. So I play with the same stuff.
That's very true. It's kind of like what we start out like. It's like stays with us, But
For sure. And I think there's more like a nostalgic feeling to it as well too, like
Yeah.
the Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just something random that, you know, we found for Halloween that we were giving out to the kids, and you know, it was cool to watch, you know, him and his fiance's brother just kind of rip open a couple packs and, you know, seeing some of the cards. And it was cool being when he actually pulled like one of his your second favorite Pokemon.
Mhm.
Out of
Yeah,
one of
number
the
one's
packs.
right here. Lucario's number 1, and Darkray's number 2 on the back.
There you go. So I think it's more of like a nostalgic feeling that I think keeps us young as well. Like the Pokemon cards, and you know, like I said, I like comic books and toys still. So, yeah. So and then, like I said, I'm still a child at heart.
Yeah. There was that thing like when I became an adult, I gave up childish things as what, including the notion that I have to give up childish things. Like I have to give up my childhood, whatever, something like that. I'm butchering it, but the idea that thinking that you have to give up something because it's childish is a childish thought, and real adults understand that. Just do what you like.
Do what you like, because honestly, I think that's what keeps you young, is when you keep that like childish, like that, you know, that love of your childhood, and it keeps you feeling young, and then you still feel like you can do everything and anything you want.
Makes me happy.
Plus it makes you happy. I have like a Barbie, Wonder Woman Barbie or whatever, and that box is like been through some shit, and it's falling apart, and I'm taping it together because I so much. But yeah, I also have the One Ring, and it's so funny.
Yes.
My youngest son, whom y'all saw when you were here, he like he is in love with like the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings movies and all that stuff, because he's been watching them since he was like born. And because I'm a huge like Tolkien nerd, and I have like the One Ring, and I had like this box of like, you know, things that, you know, where it's like stuffed in a closet, and we just moved, and I pulled it out, and he saw it, and he's like, "Oh, is that the ring, Mom?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but shh, like, you can't tell anybody we have it, right? Because it's
not precious."
Exactly. And so it's in this box, you know, it's like when I bought the Shadow of Mordor or whatever, it came with like this thing, you know, the special edition, whatever. And so he got to pick where we hid it in the house, so that way he could keep it secret and keep it safe. So
Nice. Love it.
And then he was like, but the only person he told, I can't remember, I think it was my other son Ashton, he was like, "You can't tell anybody, but look." And he like took him over there, and he showed him like the hiding spot. And I'm like, "You're not," and my son's like, "You're not supposed to say anything." He's like, "I'm just telling you because you're my brother." I'm like, oh,
What a Pippin thing to do.
I know, right? That's
Cool
his
with
like
the
favorite Hobbit is Pip. He loves Pip so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, his favorite song since he was a baby was the final song of the third Hobbit movie, The Last Goodbye or whatever. And Billy Boyd sings it. And so my other son learned how to play it on guitar and played it for him one time.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
he knows all the words, and yeah, it's like his favorite song. He'll be like, "Play the Pip song," because he knows Pip sings it. He's like, "Play the song." Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh,
Nice.
Next generation of nerds. All right. So let's see here. What is the most embarrassing thing your parents have ever caught you doing?
Oh man, that's like an everyday thing.
I can jump in on this one. If you asked her, she would say that she caught me having sex, but that was not true. I was just fully clothed, but fooling around with that same high school girlfriend whose dad wanted to shoot me. But we were at my place, and we were just making out. But she thought we were fucking, but we weren't. But that was pretty embarrassing to have your mom think that she just walked in when you're balls deep or something, because I wasn't.
That's probably always the most embarrassing thing, when your parents walk in on you having sex or doing something, you know. Yeah, that'd probably be the same thing for me too. Yeah, I remember my girlfriend at the time when I was in high school, you know, we were messing around, and I remember my mom just knocked on the door and was like, "Hey guys, put your clothes back on. We need to talk to you." On like, ooh.
Oof.
Yes, coming.
Not that way.
Not that way. COM. So yeah, that's probably one of the most embarrassing. I mean, I've done a lot of embarrassing stuff. I can't even think of stuff off the top of my head, but yeah, it's like an everyday I do embarrassing stuff, but I also laugh at myself a lot, and I'm always Josh can even vouch for this. I always do stuff to see people's reactions. So sometimes I'll do stuff or say stuff just to get reactions out of people. I don't know if you're the same way or know people like that, but I just like seeing people's reactions on some of the dumb stuff and try to make people laugh. So I was never like the class clown, but I feel like as I grew up and matured, I became the class clown.
The office clown.
The office clown.
I mean, that's how I am. That's how this live stream came to be, is because being me, let's see what I can get away with asking all these musicians, like inappropriate questions. And then questions on video, right? And then now that I have the morning show, I put in the morning show, and it's so great. Like the last when I interviewed Defiant, Al admitted that he'd accidentally pooped himself one time on stage, and an amazing thing. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And so I made like a whole clip of it, and I put it in the morning show.
Oh no.
Now at that point you just keep shitting yourself and keep playing, or you just like
he said he played the rest of the set and then just went back to the bathroom or whatever, and just like those underwear were done, just like buried them in the trash, and just, like the rest of the night.
The poor person who handles the bathroom got to go pick up them shitty drawers.
You know what? I worked in the bars and restaurants for a very long time, and you'd actually be surprised of how many shitty underwear you find in like the trash. It's a more of a common thing than you think.
My God.
Haven't had the misfortune yet.
Let's segue to the next question. What is your most embarrassing thing to happen on stage?
Most embarrassing thing to happen on stage. Oh man. I've never shit myself on stage. I've fallen off a stage before. We were playing at Union Tavern. It's a little tavern here in South Houston, and the stage monitors, they weren't bolted to anything. So whenever I put my foot on it, the thing just kind of tipped forward, and then I tipped forward with it, and I just completely ate shit on stage. I think that's probably one of the most embarrassing, because that, everybody feels bad for you, but then they're like kind of laughing at the same time, the snickering. It's like, oh, he's okay, we can laugh now.
Yeah.
So
he didn't break anything. Sorry.
But even this year, I think technical difficulties is probably one of my most. I hate having technical difficulties, whether it's my wireless not working, or even with Ellier, we had a show where his amp just didn't work. I think those are probably some of the most embarrassing things, because you try to be professional as musicians, and sometimes stuff happens and the show must go on. Sure. I might shit myself this coming up show, but you never know.
Yeah, I see Josh here.
Josh gets chub.
That's funny. I was gonna say that's funny, because for me the most embarrassing thing is when I lose my chub.
Are you guys chubbing on the entire show? Man, I need to get on your
Dude, I stay chubbed up on stage. Come on.
Dang.
I mean, music is kind of a turn on in itself. Like, you're kind of in your element. I mean, if you don't have a chub while you're playing music, I think you're
dude.
Yeah. Losing the chub is the embarrassing part.
I feel like I need to get that chub life going, man.
I think for me, embarrassing on stage, it would be two equal stories. So when I was in college, I did taiko drumming. That was kind of my first foray into musical performance. And so we had this one form called yatabayashi, and you play the drum, and it's on the ground at an angle. So you're sitting on the ground and like leaning back in a crunch. So it's like, my feet up like this, and the drum head's in front of me, and you lean back, basically holding like a mid crunch the whole time, and you're playing. And there's several parts in the song where like a lot of thing at taiko is you're playing the rhythms, but it's also choreography, and so your arm is supposed to move a certain way, and you do these big dramatic movements. And there's a part where I go to pull my stick back, and it just goes flying out of my hand like 20 feet behind me when we were performing. And in the video, I remember looking at it, and I let go, and I feel it leave my hand, and immediately I just drop to the ground and just look at the sky for like 2 seconds. And then I have to get up off the ground, run over and grab the stick, run back to my drum, and keep playing. So that was not great. And that was my first like really bad stick drop in my whole 4 years there. And then more recently, last December, I was with Rage Against the Machine tribute band called People of the Sun. We took a show out in El Paso. And before the show, we wanted to extend our set. So I had to learn like, I think 3 new Rage songs that I had never really listened to much. And so I had like 2 weeks to learn those 3 songs. And, he raps with a very particular cadence. So it's like I'm trying to get perfect articulation and flow. And then those 3 songs go perfectly. And then on fucking Guerrilla Radio, a song I've known my entire life and I've always known the lyrics, on the second verse or the end of this first verse, I just completely space on the lyrics, totally forget. I just go silent. I turn away from the audience, take a quick lap around the stage so I remember where I'm at, and then jump back in and start singing again. So it's like, people might kind of notice or whatever. Maybe they think I lost my breath or something, but yeah, for me, it was like, this is so embarrassing. Like I worked so hard to not mess up the new songs. They went fine. And the song that I thought I knew in and out, totally spaced. And yeah, that sucks. That was
even when I play, I have brain farts all the time. So yeah. I think those are the worst too.
Yeah.
It's like ultimately not that bad. Like no one's gonna remember like, oh, he forgot these 2 lines of lyrics. But like for me on the stage, like I have a mini panic attack. And I'm like, what are the words? Like, come back to me, please.
Well, and it's funny because like I feel like I was just actually going over this earlier with one of my students. It's like, when something happens on stage and something goes wrong, you automatically go into panic mode, especially as a front man, because a lot of times when things go wrong with a band, like we're up there like, okay, now we're going to be the ones to like entertain people because the guitarist broke a string or the drummer stopped playing or, whatever happens. And it's like you're sitting there and you feel like I'm going to die of old age up here. Like time stands still. Like it feels like an eternity has gone by. I've had like 4 more children and 2 more divorces and like, all this stuff has happened and transpired. But then when you go back, like if there's a video of the show, you look at it and you're like that was a sneeze worth of time.
Yeah,
and like nobody noticed. Yeah. I didn't even notice. I know where it was and I had to rewind back and like play through again, be like, oh wait, yep, that's where that happened. But it's funny how like when you're up there and those moments happen, you're almost just like,
Amber Alert.
Yeah, oh my God, it feels like forever. I'm standing here and I don't know what's going on. So in those moments, like I took a lap around the stage, especially for my student, because she may come back and watch this at some point. And then it's always good advice for any of our fellow musicians out there. What do you do in those moments? Especially you, Chris, because usually everybody kind of looks to the front man. When something goes wrong with a song, the band stops playing, guitarist breaks a string, or the stage.
Funny story, actually. I still kept playing when I fell off. I was still strumming.
It's very impressive. You didn't stop playing. Like, what happens when your band stops playing for whatever reason behind you, and now you're stuck there, your dick in your hand, like.
Yeah. I mean, knock on wood. I'm lucky that we haven't had like that big of a technical issue yet. We're still young. We've only done a couple of shows. We've had technical issues like the guitar's not working, but that was at the start of the set. So it was just kind of like, oh, give us a minute to get started. But yeah, for the most part, I just feel like, I'd spent some time doing stand-up comedy. I'm no good at it. I'm horrible, but I did it. I went on stage and tried, and I did improv comedy and sketch comedy. So I'm used to kind of like, doing things on the fly. So-called working the audience. So yeah, I'll just find things to talk about. If that arises, I'll make jokes, have some banter with someone who is up at the front, who's actually like paying attention, make jokes about people who are way in the back who don't want to come forward, or, take the moment to introduce the band or talk about the lyrics of a song or whatever, just kind of pass the time. All the panic for me is like internal, like in that moment, I'm freaking out, but I feel like I keep it pretty cool on stage. If things go wrong, just move on.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, I guess I'm more fortunate because we are a 5-piece band, and if there is some technical, it's easier because we have 2 guitarists. If one of them kind of drops out or loses signal or breaks a string or something, there's really a lot of, especially in our songs, a lot of times that other guitarist kind of still fills in the space versus if you just had a one guitarist. If you only have one guitarist in a band and something happens, it's super noticeable. But I'm not gonna lie, we play really heavy riffy music. There's a lot of riffs, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of going on. And I mean, learning a 45-minute set and not messing up a single time, that's probably not gonna happen. I can I can tell you that. No matter how much you practice, I've know these songs, like the back of my hand, but there's still times where I have brain farts, just like Chris was saying, that sometimes you just forget. And it is a scary moment, and you just kind of have to figure out where you're at and just kind of keep going and jump right back on. I've hit wrong notes. I've hit wrong. One of our songs, "Barely Breathing." There's the breakdown part where I was in a completely different key when I started the breakdown, and there's a part where it's just me, and I start the breakdown, and we're in like we're supposed to be in a C sharp, and I'm in like an A. And it's super noticeable, like when you hear it. But I come right back into when the whole band comes back on, and then it's like, oh, now he's back to a C sharp.
It's just jazz, baby. It's jazz.
It's jazz. It's jazz. But I have like a mindset, and I tell the guys, we always talk about it. The show must go on, no matter what happens. Just keep playing and don't make it awkward. There's times even. Like, it's funny because sometimes with Elliot, he has very intricate drumming parts, and there'll be times in the song where he'll like something will happen and there'll be like no drums in like a certain part, and it's kind of weird how we all feed off of that at one point, and we make I don't know how, but we all just make these adjustments as we're listening to the songs and vibing out with everybody else. That we like said there's one, I can't remember what song it was. It was a recent show we did, and like right at the end of this fill, everything just stopped, and all of us just stopped playing for a second, and then we all came back in, and it sounded like it was part of the song, but it was really a mess up. And it was really cool how we all just like adjusted at that moment and just brought it all back. And unless we're nowhere on the lines of Metallica or Slayer, so if we mess up on one of our songs, no one's really gonna know. Unless there's like some diehard fan that's been listening to our songs, nonstop, and it's like, hey, there's not supposed to be that fill there. Or, hey, you're supposed to be doing that. And then you can justify it with like, well, it's a live performance. We make adjustments for live performances.
Yeah, exactly. We're just trying out some different endings.
We're just trying out some different. There you go.
Well, bands do that too. Like they do different live versions, and I wonder sometimes if like those modifications they made because of like, oh, fuck ups, or like, oh, we tried this and this is cool. So yeah, it's fascinating. Well, we're going to wrap up here soon. I got one more question for you, unless we got anybody else who'd like to pipe in and ask something. And my final question I love to ask is if you could say anything to our audience who is watching, who are maybe aspiring musicians or just aspiring creatives, and whether they want to be artists or, photographers or whatever, like what would be the advice you give to like the next generation or people who want to maybe become musicians themselves?
Cool. I'll go first. Yeah. If you're a musician or a musician, either one, honestly, just keep enjoying it. Just have fun. Like, don't stress out about like certain metrics of success or anything like that. I originally started doing music before I met these guys, and I just needed to sublimate. I was going through a lot of like negative emotions, and that's how I channeled it, and I wanted to do something productive. And I, of course, have the dream of, playing big stadium and all this stuff. But I find that what's most helpful to me is just the process of doing the art, going to Cammons and writing, trying to write new poetry or writing new. I'm a drummer as well, so writing new drum beats and rhythms and any of that stuff. Just creating. So just enjoy the process, and also if you do have goals, or if you're struggling with progressing and becoming successful, just set reasonable goals and work towards them, and do stuff like this. Talk to other musicians and network. That I would say network a lot. I'm new at that, and so I'm already finding that talking to people at shows is opening a lot of opportunities. It's how I met Kraevin playing a show, and how we met Chris, who ended up being our producer for our first single. So you'll be really surprised how much you can accomplish just by enjoying it, and setting small goals and interacting with others that are doing the same. That's all I got.
I feel like you've touched like almost pretty much everything. Yeah. Having fun, I think, is the biggest thing. I agree with Chris. Like, I think just once it stops being fun, I think you should move on to something else, because I think that's where all the creativeness comes, especially with our project. We always try new stuff, new ideas. Like I said, we all come from different genres of music, and being able to implement that. We always have fun. We always have to do creative stuff. And like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think Chris really hit on a lot of the points. Networking is huge in the industry. You never know who you're going to meet, or they always say, it was funny. I was watching, I think it was a Steve Vai interview when he was talking about how, you have all these amazing musicians out there, and it's like, how come they get noticed, but they didn't? It's because they were at the right place at the right time, talking to the right people. So, always just keep an open mind of, even whenever we're doing gigs and everything, you never know who's going to be in the audience, and, just network and talk to people, and you never know where things are going to go. And another thing that I also want to talk about is your ego too. I think ego can really get in the way of a lot of bands. And I've been in bands and projects myself where, ego gets in the way. I had a band where we had two singers, and we just couldn't like work together as one wanted to be the front man, the other one wanted to be the front man. It just didn't work. So I think just putting your ego aside and having fun, listening to, your other bandmates' ideas, and, work with that. And, I think you can achieve a lot, and, always keep that open mind, and do shows, meet people. Social media is your friend. There's no reason why you shouldn't be posting stuff on social media, pics, videos, whatever. We're in the digital age. So if you want to get noticed, just keep posting on those platforms. And yeah, we're always up for some new ideas and shows. So if you have any music, we're always down to put your stuff on our playlist. I actually have a Spotify playlist that I created that has all the local bands and that we've played with, and I jam them every day just to kind of keep y'all in the loop and everything, and to remind myself of why I'm here and why I do this. So yeah, so hopefully that answers some of your questions, or your question other musicians. Just have fun. And if you have questions, just ask people. There's people that's been in this industry for decades, and they're some of the most genuine, nicest people ever. They can help you guide, which direction you want. So
yeah, that's the best thing. It's just like, don't ever assume you know everything, because you don't. And there's always somebody who knows more and that you can learn from. Just surround yourself with people that you can learn from. That's what and like you said, networking. Like, I learn so much from every musician that I interview, every musician that I talk to, and every musician that I play with. It's just incredible. Like, this journey, you can learn so much and just grow. And like Chris, even you touched on, there's no like set metrics for success, right? Because people could be like, oh, well, you only have, 5,000 streams on Spotify, but it's like, but I don't sit here just because I haven't played Madison Square Garden. I don't think that I'm not successful in my music career because I'm doing it. You know what I mean? As long as you're doing it, you're successful, and a friend of mine once said, he's like, I feel like such a failure because, he's like, I'm still living paycheck to paycheck and yada, yada, whatever, with his business that he had. And he's not a musician, but he's still like an entrepreneur. And I told him, I was like, honey, you've only failed if you stop. It's like, if you keep going.
So far, you've just learned lessons.
Yeah, so far they're just lessons. And this is part of your journey, and you're only a failure if you stop. I was like, but if you keep going from here, you're going to take those lessons, you're going to apply them, and whatever you put your time and effort into, you're going to see results for. It's like you only fail if you stop trying. So just keep going. I was like, you're doing it. It feels like it's crazy, but I mean, you're doing it. So thank you.
And I can look at just the short amount of time that we've actually been doing shows. Like we said, we just started doing shows this year, and we've been together since 2020. Just a small amount of time of what we've done, and shows and talked to people, and been on shows. It's just amazing how many doors and opportunities it opens. And until you quit, you never know where you're gonna go. So it's amazing.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me at Late Nights with Kraevin. For everyone, thank you for tuning in with me and Rhizomata. Stay tuned and see them in Houston. If you are around, they have a show coming up on the 20th. Make sure you follow them on social media. On Rhizomata, they are on Facebook, they are on Instagram, they are on YouTube, they are everywhere. And I will be debuting their demo, little preview of music from them tomorrow morning on the Morning Walk of Shame show with Rock Rage Radio. So tune into Rock Rage Radio. Download the app so you can listen to Rhizomata tomorrow morning, get a sneak peek of their new music. Thank you guys so much. And tune in next week. We're going to have another Houston band called Post Profit. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Paradise of the tears.